it is important to highlight the violence of transgender people that they go through. We use this day to raise awareness of transgender persons in the society.
I think we know that the issue of transgender identity is incredibly complex and it's not really understood. And in fact, if we go back to our homes and to our schools, almost all of us have been socialized and educated into accepting a binary notion of gender. People only understand that you're either a man or you're a woman. And the complexity of understanding the ranges of identity in between is something that I think we are all learning about. The problem, of course, in South Africa, like across the world, is the expectation that we should all conform to either the one or the other. And it raises, I think, the question of how we have been taught to believe that the norm is actually that you're a male or you're a female. Earlier this year, one of my program officers was called out to deal with a case of a 10-year-old girl who wore trousers instead of a skirt to a Johannesburg school. She was made to strip down to her panties, and she was left only wearing her panties, her school shirt, and her jersey for the entire day. Now, this is, of course, just one form of the kind of bullying and ostracization which is taking place because people act out of ignorance and sometimes out of hate as well.
People who are going through transition, they find themselves in a liminal space. It's a space where you're in between. And in such a space, you find it difficult in terms of accessing health care services or anything which has to do with where you'd have to produce your identity card. Because if you don't pass as female, but you don't really pass as male or as a man, it becomes problematic for you as an individual.
Principal o be a sa ntsebe mara ba mo tlhaloseditse ka nna. Then ya batla gore principal ba mo tlhaloseditse ka nna tšhomi tša ka tše ke tsamaya le tšona se ke tle sekolong kgona go di botsiša gore motho la botsotse le mme jang. Ba mo tlhaloseditse ba mmotse gore mme tša gore ke sese ba re motho la a ba botsa gore motho la se sese ke tšhola ke mošimane ke na le certificate sa lenyana. Bana ba le ba mmotse gore mene rena na re ra motsebe na re dula le ena ko gae na re le kudu ba le ena ko gae melato e mentšhi na re wa e tsamaya re phela rena le ena ra tseba gore go phela le batho ba mokhutola ra ba tseba mene re le ena understand re ya le nna ke a ba tseba ba re dola tlhalebitša motho le nnete gore se ya batla gore a botša bana ba sekolo ba e leng gore ke tsamaya le bona ditšhomi tšaka a re ke kgopela gore ye motho la ya toilet le fitlho kwa le mogoele a thoma re wa le tšhikela nyaka o le betha ka re la mmana wane le matlamoši a bonna lena le mo le sa le ka toilet ka re tšholotše la bile a di tswale le mo tshware ka fase le bone gore na o tshwereng.
My involvement in the matter began close to where you guys ended off in the video, where Nari had already been to the South African Human Rights Commission, had been to the Equality Court. And what the Equality Court is in South Africa, on top of our constitution, Section 9 of our constitution says that you cannot discriminate anyone on grounds of race, sexual orientation, sex, gender, and other grounds. It is a beautiful piece of legislation which said that if you come to me and you call me names because of your ignorance, I should have a remedy. If you come to me and you discriminate against me because you didn't have time to go and learn who I am and what I am about, I have a remedy in the courts of law in South Africa. And that's what that act's supposed to mean, and it's a nice act. But then the reality comes, which is something someone like Nari had to face, where we sit, the Equality Act commenced in 2000 in our country, over 14 years ago. And you go to a magistrate's court and they tell you, this is the first case to ever come to our courts.
this year with my friends, we were 6. She came to me in class. I was writing maths. Then she said she wanna come and see me. Then I go to her. She said I must go and collect all my friends, and I did. When we arrived, she started asking questions like, why we are like this? And I was like, yo, I don't know how to express the way I am. She said, the way we are, like, it's satanism, and I'm the boss. She says I'm the one who's changing other children to become like me. And I said, I'm not the one. She said, I am a satanic. She took our books for the day. We never attended, and we were supposed to go and write assignments, but for the day we never attended. And she said we must go to wherever we want to go, just out of the school, but we never. I told my friends that we can't keep on going to school being threatened and tortured each and every day. I said to them, let's stand up. They didn't want to because they were scared. But I did push them so that we can go and fight for our rights, because we have rights.
And there's been this T that has remained silent. It remains a bit silent. Advocacy, it's starting to get there, but it's remained silent even in our courts. And we then have a duty as people who realize that it's remained silent to give it a voice. Because the only way racism got a voice is because someone put it out there. The only way the L and the G got a voice is because someone put it out there. And we've got to start putting it out there.
You must remember that on the side of the government, they're just getting their head around the question of sexual orientation. And what they haven't yet begun to grasp is the question of gender identity. So that's a new issue, to be very frank, for them.
The magistrate courts, all of them are designated, and the weakness there is that the magistrates are not empowered enough to be able to deal with such matters.
Often it is really frustrating. You get some officials that don't, but there are some of us that actually do fight for these rights. And we also face a lot of stigma amongst ourselves, amongst our colleagues. We approach in the corridors, why are you doing this, you know? What does your family say? I say, well, my family is not exactly paying my salary here. You know what, I am working for the people of South Africa, and I have to do this.
This thing is not something that we can impose on educators, the provinces, the district. It's something that people need to want to do. So it's actually a systemic change that needs to take place. So because we're already still having a bit of resistance with some of our provincial coordinators in some of the districts, it might take a bit longer than we had hoped. But the strides are being made in terms of ensuring that people understand the diversity that exists and that they have to accept it as part of our constitutional mandate to deliver quality education.
It's been years since we have been living in the new South Africa, but still we're faced with ignorance. We have to deal with people that are narrow-minded every day. So what I'd like to maybe say is that do your best in the environment that you're in to make sure that people who display ignorance, they don't leave your side without you having opened their mind to transgender and intersex and gay and lesbian issues, so that because by educating, I believe that you are eliminating some form of darkness.
Department of Education should make its priority that our trans learners are safe when they enter their school years. Issues of discrimination and humiliation should be addressed. Our schools should be gender affirming and not gender fearing.